We called him the Macho Man. We celebrated the madness. We cheered for the most intense, charismatic performer the golden age of wrestling ever produced. But for Randy Poffo, the man behind the sunglasses, the madness wasn't a catchphrase, it was a prison. Where did the character end and the man begin? The truth is terrifying. The line didn't exist. Today, we are peeling back the curtain on the 12 darkest, most volatile incidents of Randy Savage's life outside the ring. We aren't talking about elbow drops today. We're talking about guns in parking lots, stalking, court cases, and the suffocating control that destroyed his own fairy tale. Was he the greatest method actor in history? Or was he a man losing his grip on reality? Welcome back to the WrestleVerse. If you grew up when I did, in the era of Saturday morning superstars, Randy Savage was God. He was color, he was energy, he was the cream of the crop. But as we've gotten older, and as more stories from the locker room have come to light, we've realized that the intensity that made him a millionaire also made his life, and the lives of those around him, a chaotic minefield. We're going to count down 12 documented incidents where the Macho Man persona took over completely. And trust me, by the time we get to number 1, you'll see the mega powers in a very different light. Let's start the countdown. Number 12, the steak theft. To understand the madness, you have to understand where Randy came from. Before the bright lights of the WWF, Randy and his brother Lanny, led by their father, Angelo Poffo, ran an outlaw promotion called ICW in Kentucky. They were at war with the big Memphis territory run by Jerry Lawler. They had no money, they had huge chips on their shoulders, and they lived their gimmicks 24/7 to survive. It was a siege mentality, and that brings us to incident number 12. It's the least violent on our list, but perhaps the most baffling. It involves the heavyweight champion of the world and a package of steak. According to Memphis legend Bill Dundee and confirmed by local law from the Kentucky territories, during his reign as the ICW world champion, Randy Savage was actually arrested for shoplifting a steak from a supermarket. Think about that for a second. This wasn't a starving rookie. This was the top guy of the promotion. But the Poffos were running on such thin margins, and Randy was so detached from societal norms that he allegedly tried to smuggle meat out of a grocery store. It sounds funny now, the Macho Man getting busted for a T-bone, but it paints a picture of his mindset. In his head, he was the king of wrestling, an untouchable savage who took what he wanted. In reality, he was a guy getting handcuffed over beef. It shows a disconnect from reality that would only grow wider. If he couldn't follow the simple rule of pay for your groceries, how was he going to handle the pressure of millions of dollars and global fame? As we are about to see, not very well. Number 11, the Cobra loyalty test. As we move into the WWF era, the stakes got higher, and so did the paranoia. Randy Savage didn't just want to be the champion, he was terrified of losing his spot. And in the Shark Tank of the 1980s WWF, his biggest fear wasn't a headlock, it was betrayal. Incident number 11 brings us to one of the most bizarre backstage rituals ever recorded. The feud between Macho Man and Jake the Snake Roberts is legendary. But the real drama happened before the cameras even started rolling for their famous angle, where the Cobra bites Randy's arm. Savage was convinced, absolutely convinced, that Jake Roberts might try to sabotage him. Not by making him look bad in a match, but by literally poisoning him. Before Savage would allow the devenomed Cobra to bite him for the segment, he demanded a loyalty test. According to Jake Roberts, Randy refused to go through with the angle unless Jake let the snake bite him first. Savage stood there, intense and sweating, watching Jake force his own snake to latch onto his leg backstage. Only after seeing that Jake didn't die or go into convulsions did Randy nod and say, "Okay, brother, now it can bite me. Think about the level of distrust. He thought a co-worker would use a live animal to assassinate him on national television just to move up the card. This wasn't just being cautious. This was the architecture of paranoia being built brick by brick. Number 10. Terrorizing the announcers. Usually, the heat in wrestling stays between the wrestlers. There's an unwritten rule. You don't touch the announcers, especially the beloved voices of the territory who are non-athletes. However, as seen in incident number 10, Randy Savage played by his own rules. During the ICW vs. Memphis War, the tension was palpable, but Savage took it a step further. We're talking about the parking lot confrontation at Rupp Arena. Lance Russell and Dave Brown were the voices of Memphis. Wrestling, gentlemen, professionals, and decidedly not fighters. One night, Savage didn't just cut a promo on them, he cornered them outside the arena. Witnesses described Savage blocking their path, screaming and physically intimidating two older men who had no way to defend themselves. He wasn't working a storyline for the fans. There were no cameras. He was legitimately terrifying them to send a message to Jerry Lawler. It got so bad that many of the Memphis boys started carrying guns in their cars. Not because of fans, but because they didn't know what Randy Savage would do next. When you're scaring the announcers in the parking lot, you aren't a heel anymore. You're a liability. And speaking of liabilities, what happens when that aggression spills over into a public restaurant? Stick around, because at number 9, the Macho Man orders a side of chaos at a Waffle House. Number 9. The Waffle House confrontation. We've talked about arguments, we've talked about intimidation. But incident number 9 is where the Macho Man tried to fight the law. And the law had teeth. The stories of wrestlers in Waffle Houses are legendary. But this wasn't a food fight. This was a man in a state of blind, uncontrollable rage. According to police reports from the incident, Savage was involved in a heated altercation that escalated so quickly, the local police were called to the scene. Most people calm down when the cops show up. Randy Savage did not. He refused to back down, forcing the officers to deploy a K-9 unit, specifically a 75-pound German Shepherd described as one of the most aggressive dogs in the department's history. In a moment of pure insanity, Savage didn't surrender. He fought the dog. Savage himself later admitted, "I did get one good kick in," before realizing it was, in his words, a big mistake. The dog, doing its job, bit Savage on his back end, finally subduing him enough for the arrest. Think about the adrenaline required to kick a charging police dog. This wasn't just a bad temper, it was a refusal to accept reality. He would rather fight a beast than surrender his pride. Number 8. The Fresno Punch. If fighting a police dog shows his stubbornness, incident number 8 reveals the tragic collateral damage of his obsession with protecting Miss Elizabeth. This time, the victim wasn't a cop or a wrestler. It was a 14-year-old girl. It was April 30th, 1986. Savage was the Intercontinental Champion, set to defend his title against Tito Santana. But the real fight started during his walk to the ring. As they walked down the aisle, fans began heckling Elizabeth. One report says a soda was thrown, while others mention offensive comments. For Savage, any disrespect toward Elizabeth was a trigger for rage. He snapped. Savage spun around and threw a blind rabbit punch into the crowd, intending to hit the heckler. He missed. Instead, he connected squarely with Barbara Pallas, a 14-year-old female fan. The impact was devastating. Barbara was knocked out cold. She suffered a concussion and had her 2 front teeth knocked out. Tito Santana actually stopped to help her, visiting her later in the hospital while Savage had to deal with the legal fallout. A civil suit followed. Savage and Titan Sports eventually settled the case for $6,000, money intended to cover her medical bills and damages. But for Barbara, the pain wasn't just physical. Years later, Barbara recalled seeing Savage at a deposition. She said, "He never apologized to me. I would have at least expected him to say, 'I'm sorry.'" This incident proves how dangerous his protective instinct had become. In his mind, he was defending his wife's honor. In reality, he smashed a teenage girl's face. The line between hero and villain had completely vanished. We are halfway through our descent into the madness, and the stories are only getting darker. If you're appreciating the research and the truth behind these legends, do us a favor. Hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. It helps us keep the lights on in the WrestleVerse so we can keep bringing you the history they don't want you to see. Next up, we're hitting the road for a traffic stop gone wrong and a death threat that left a fellow wrestler shaking. Number 7. The Red Light Rage. We've seen what happens in a diner, and we've seen what happens in an arena, but incident number 7 takes place in the most relatable setting of all, the morning commute. Most of us have experienced road rage. Someone cuts you off, you yell a few words, and you move on. But for Randy Savage in 1986, the madness didn't have an off switch, even at a stoplight in Nashville. The story goes like this. Savage is driving, minding his own business, when a car pulls up next to him at a red light. The passenger, a wrestling fan, recognizes the Macho Man. Instead of asking for an autograph, the fan decides to be a smart mark and shouts an insult at him. Now, a normal celebrity rolls up the window. Randy Savage, he put the car in park in the middle of traffic and got out. He dragged the fan out of the vehicle and physically assaulted him right there on the asphalt. No referees, no pay-per-view audience. Just a world champion beating up a civilian because he couldn't let a verbal insult slide. This incident is crucial because it shows how thin his skin was. He was the cream of the crop, making millions, yet he was willing to risk jail time over a heckler at a red light. It was a pattern of behavior, immediate, disproportionate physical retaliation. Number 6. The death threat to Chris Kanyon. As we move to incident number 6, the violence shifts from physical fists to psychological terror. This time, the target wasn't a fan, it was a fellow wrestler who made the mistake of touching Randy's deepest insecurity, his age. By the late 90s in WCW, Savage was older. He was paranoid about his spot, his hair loss, and most importantly, his massive endorsement deal with Slim Jim. Enter Chris Kanyon. In an attempt to build a storyline, Kanyon went on Good Morning America, or a similar platform, and made a comment referring to Savage as a has-been or old glory. It was standard wrestling trash talk. It was a work. But Savage didn't see it that way. He believed that Kanyon calling him old on national TV could actually cause Slim Jim to cancel his contract. He thought Kanyon was trying to take food off his table. According to Kanyon's own autobiography, Savage cornered him backstage. He wasn't performing. He looked Kanyon in the eyes and legitimately threatened to kill him. Kanyon described it as one of the most terrifying moments of his life. He realized that Savage wasn't distinguishing between the show and reality. To Savage, an insult to his character was a direct attack on his bank account and his life. This is where the architecture of paranoia becomes dangerous. It wasn't just about pride anymore. It was about survival. And if he was this aggressive over a contract, imagine how he reacted when it came to his wife. Number 5. The Death Wish vs. Bad News Brown. There is a rule in wrestling. You know who the shooters are, and you don't mess with them. Haku, the Iron Sheik, and Bad News Brown. Bad News was an Olympic judoka, a man who could legitimately cripple you in seconds. But by the late 80s, Randy Savage's paranoia had blinded him to self-preservation. Incident number 5 is the time the Macho Man almost wrote a check his body couldn't cash. During a match loop, likely building towards SummerSlam, Savage felt that Bad News wasn't selling properly or was trying to upstage him. Instead of talking it out like a professional, Savage allegedly sucker-punched or stiffed Brown in the ring. Bad News Brown later recounted the story, saying Savage jumped him and kicked him in the gut for real. When they got backstage, the locker room froze. You have the intense, frantic Macho Man on one side and a silent, deadly martial artist on the other. According to Bad News, he confronted Savage in the dressing room. He didn't yell. He just promised violence. He told Savage that if he ever tried anything like that again, he would physically destroy him. And here is the kicker. Savage backed down. For all his madness, a tiny part of his brain recognized legitimate danger. This incident reveals that his aggression was often a bully's tactic, explosive against those he could control, but erratic and dangerous when he picked the wrong target. He was lucky to walk out of that locker room with his limbs intact. Number 4. The Black Eye of WrestleMania 9. If incident number 5 was a bullet dodged, incident number 4 is a direct hit. We are talking about the most famous facial injury in wrestling history. WrestleMania 9, Las Vegas. Hulk Hogan returns to the WWF, but when the cameras zoomed in, the world gasped. Hogan was sporting a massive, deep purple shiner. Now, if you ask Hulk Hogan, he'll tell you he had a jet ski accident with Brutus Beefcake. But if you ask the boys in the eye back, they tell a very different story. A story about a husband who had lost everything. By 1993, Randy and Elizabeth were divorced. The fairy tale was dead. Rumors were swirling that Elizabeth had sought refuge with Hulk Hogan and his wife Linda in Miami to escape Randy's control. Savage believed Hogan, his Mega Powers partner, had conspired to steal his wife, or at least help her leave him. The rumor, corroborated by wrestlers like Scott Steiner, is that Savage tracked Hogan down days before WrestleMania and punched him square in the face. Think about the magnitude of this. Savage assaulted the face of the company days before the biggest show of the year. He didn't care about the business, the money, or the fans. He wanted revenge. That black eye on Hogan wasn't just a bruise, it was a physical receipt for the destruction of Randy Savage's marriage. It was the visible proof that the Mega Powers had exploded for real. But punching Hogan was just the climax of the feud. What led to that punch? Next, we uncover the stalking incident that terrified the Hogan family, and the incident involving a loaded gun that nearly ended Randy's life before it began. Number 3. The Miami Invasion. We've arrived at the bronze medal of madness. Incident number 3 isn't a fight in a ring or a parking lot. It's a domestic nightmare that played out in the real world, involving the 2 biggest stars in wrestling history. We know about the black eye at WrestleMania 9. But what caused it? The answer lies in what I call the Miami Invasion. By 1992, Elizabeth had enough. The years of being locked in locker rooms, the tracking of her movements, the jealousy. It broke her. According to reports and accounts from Hulk Hogan himself, when Elizabeth finally decided to leave Randy, she didn't just move to a hotel. She fled to the one place she thought she'd be safe, Hulk and Linda Hogan's home in Miami. Savage was calling her constantly. When she didn't answer, his suspicion turned into a manhunt. He didn't just assume she was gone. He tracked her down. He boarded a plane and flew straight to Miami, fueled by the paranoid delusion that Hogan and his wife were conspiring to steal Elizabeth from him. Savage showed up at Hogan's front door. This wasn't a social call. He was demanding to see her, violating the sanctity of another man's home and terrifying the people inside. Imagine the scene. The Macho Man, arguably the most intense human being on the planet, pounding on your door, convinced you have kidnapped his wife. This incident is crucial because it marks the moment Savage became a stalker in his own life story. He couldn't accept that she had agency. He only saw betrayal. Number 2. The gun incident with Bill Dundee. Stalking is terrifying. But incident number 2 involves a weapon that doesn't care about kayfabe. We're going back to the territory days, to a parking lot in Tennessee, where Randy Savage stared down the barrel of a gun. The heat between the Poffo family's ICW promotion and the Jarrett Lawler territory was real. But the personal heat between Randy Savage and superstar Bill Dundee was nuclear. It started over a dispute about gimmicks. Dundee had used the Macho nickname on his tights years prior, and Savage took offense. But words turned to action in a gym parking lot. According to the most widely circulated version of the story, they got into a heated argument. Dundee, feeling threatened by the younger, bigger, and crazier Savage, went to his car and pulled out a handgun. Most men run when a gun comes out. Randy Savage, he attacked. In a feat of adrenaline and insanity, Savage blocked the weapon, wrestled it away from Dundee, and turned the tables. The legend, supported by various reports from the era, is that Savage didn't just disarm him. He used the gun, a devastating punch immediately after, to drill Dundee in the side of the head, reportedly breaking his jaw. Now, in later years, Dundee has tried to downplay the pistol whipping part, admitting the fight but claiming the details were exaggerated. But the core fact remains. A gun was pulled and Randy Savage walked away the winner. This is number 2 on our list because it's the closest Randy ever came to death or murder. It wasn't about a storyline. It was 2 men in a parking lot, one with a lethal weapon and the Macho Man surviving through sheer violent will. We have seen physical assaults, lawsuits, and gunfights. But the number 1 incident isn't a single moment of violence. It's a tragedy that lasted for years. It is the story of a golden cage. Number 1. The isolation of Miss Elizabeth. And now, we reach number 1. This isn't a single explosion of violence like the gun incident or the Waffle House brawl. It was something much more damaging. It was a daily reality. We are talking about the isolation of Miss Elizabeth. For years, wrestling folklore has claimed that Randy Savage physically locked Elizabeth in a locker room with a padlock. Now, his brother Lanny Poffo frequently disputed this, claiming she simply had a separate dressing room because she was the only woman on the tour. But whether there was a physical padlock or not is almost irrelevant because the psychological lock was undeniable. According to wrestlers like Bad News Brown and Hulk Hogan, Randy's paranoia meant Elizabeth was effectively cut off from the world. Bad News Brown, in his shoot interviews, described walking past their room and seeing Elizabeth sitting alone. When he tried to simply say, "Hello," Savage's demeanor would instantly shift to suspicion. He tracked her movements, limited who she could speak to, and created an environment where she was his property, not his partner. This wasn't just protecting the business. This was a man who believed the other wrestlers were predators, and the only way to keep his wife safe was to imprison her. He lived the gimmick of the Macho Man, the jealous, possessive protector, 24 hours a day. The tragedy is that this control is exactly what drove her away. The madness didn't protect the relationship. It suffocated it. By 1992, the fairy tale ended in divorce, shattering Randy's reality and setting the stage for the dark years that followed. Incident number 1 isn't a fight. It's the heartbreaking destruction of a marriage through paranoia. From stealing steaks in Kentucky to pulling guns in Tennessee. From fighting police dogs in Nashville to assaulting the face of the company at WrestleMania. The story of Randy Savage is not just about elbow drops and Slim Jims. It is the story of a man who possessed a rare, dangerous intensity. That intensity made him a millionaire. It made him a legend. But it also made his life a minefield of conflict and paranoia. Randy Poffo gave everything to the Macho Man. In the end, the character consumed the man. He was the greatest performer of his generation, but as we've seen today, The price of that performance was his peace of mind. We hope this deep dive gave you a new perspective on the Golden Age. If you enjoyed this level of research and want more true stories from the territories to the big time, please like this video and subscribe to the WrestleVerse. Let us know in the comments. Do you think Savage's intensity was necessary for his success? Or was it his downfall? I'll see you in the next one. Dig it.